Alright guys, today we're going to do something completely different. This obviously is not a 737 if you know your history at all. Southwest flew 727s from 1978 to 1985, therefore you can get credit through the VA flying a 727. Now obviously this is a UPS freighter. Currently the freighter version is available from Flight Sim Studios 727. They are working on the passenger version. Hopefully when they do release that, they will have a Southwest livery, which should be super cool. I'm sitting here in Nashville, nice scenery, got the injector turned on. So we're just going to act like or pretend as if we are a Southwest 727. I do have picture here for you of my profile on SimBrief. Of course, I do my own flight planning. I can't do it through LC5 or Rachel, but I do have LC5 engaged so that I can at least get credit for the flight. I can still, of course, use weather, that sort of thing. Currently, Nashville showing 280 at 5, view at 7, altimeter 3023. Yeah, so we're going to use runway 2 left and go up to Cincinnati today. This is my profile. As I said, filed my own OFP here through SimBrief. You want to make sure that those weights match up. That's what they say on their Discord and their website so that all the integration works properly. Also take a gander at the ICAO equipment and PBN capabilities so that it's semi-realistic to what the 727 had. I do have the G for GPS, and the reason being is there are some options as far as nav equipment is concerned. What's really great, even though you won't have Rachel through LC5 to do all your flows and set up for you, what they've got for you here is this little iPhone looking thing, and this is basically your crew. You're a virtual first officer, virtual flight engineer. If you just simply click these buttons, that will do the flows and smash all the buttons for you. So it's really great. Currently the pre-flight check is complete. I'm going to have them go ahead and do the before start, and you'll hear them in the background flipping the switches, doing everything. He even set the altimeter for me. How cool. So we're going to prepare for pushback and departure here through GSX. Other things I can show you here while we're setting up, obviously the little iPhone looking thing there. We've got our tablet here, our checklists here, which I'll be using the checklist off screen. You can see 2 pages there for both, for your pilots, your flight engineers. So if you're trying to do all this by yourself, certainly can do so. Feel free. Your flight engineer panel back there. If you want to try to decipher all that and work through that yourself, knock yourself out. I am not a 727 pilot, so I can't really tell you how to do any of that. What I think is really great is simply using this little phone device. You let your crew manager run through all those checks and push those buttons for you so that you can just focus on flying. If we were going to go through the whole aircraft and all the buttons and stuff, it would take a long time. So I'm just going to skip through all that and stick to the flying today. So what we're going to do, and I am going to go ahead and let them push so that we can keep this video as short as possible. Brakes released. I'm going to hold off on the start while I'm doing all this and he's finishing his check. So clearly we've got all that removed. Here's our panel state. I'm not sure where they're going at this point. They'll figure it out, hopefully. Auto throttle hide or show right here. That's obviously important. Now, I was told that the 7.2, they really only use the auto throttle at cruise, but it does work pretty good in climb and descent for this aircraft, so we're going to use it that way. Options, navigation options. You can do a GPS, use that Garmin that you're probably used to using. That's probably your best option if you already know how to use that. The SVA is literally latitude and longitude coordinates. Alright, so you might not want to use that. There are YouTube tutorials for it. The GNS XLS, because most people are not familiar with that FMC, I'm going to use that today. Pre-flight, we already had all this loaded up with any luck. As long as our weights and fuel and everything match up, we'll be in good shape. I did not show you my OFP.
Remove the vest from the
which is
pouch
essentially here I have to do this manually through SimBrief. 727, 50 minutes en route. There's my gas, landing fuel, 2 left, 1/8 center. There's the route. G-Dog Vapor, Perico, Sargo 4. So we may have to reference that a few times, but we'll come back to it if we need to. Weather conditions with the click of a button. There's your weight limits for that flap setting. Set EPers, set trim, watch the bugs, set speeds. Bam, just like that. The thing is really cool. I think they did a great job with this. Let's get cranking on that here. 2, 3, 1's your start sequence. Again, I'm not a 727 pilot. I'm just going on the things that I have heard and been told. Let's get this thing started up. And I apologize for the whirlwind here. I'm just kind of going through, but I hate making long videos because nobody's interested in watching 3-hour videos. So we're going to get this thing going.
It is also prohibited to consume
I'll get this engine
alcohol
started, by the way. We also have an after start that we will do. Flight, this is sort of a VNAV calculator. I don't really use it. I sort of just do the mental math. And then landing, and then, of course, charts. So we'll come back to that. We'll get back to that in the landing part.
To activate the flow of oxygen, pull down on the
take off.
map
We might just
until
leave
the
it on that
plastic
for now,
tubing
but
is
hide
fully
it.
extended.
So
Place the mask
essentially,
over your nose and mouth and breathe normally. Secure the mask
and I think
with
I
the
waited
elastic
too
track.
long. It got angry,
Although
so it went
oxygen
back
will
to
be
off.
flowing,
You got
so
to have to
plastic
kind of keep an
bags
eye
will
on
not
this.
inflate. Continue
If we're
wearing
looking at
masks
this sort of like the
until otherwise
Southwest way, you know,
notified
we've
by
got
a crew
our
member.
oil
If you are
pressure,
traveling
light
with
off,
children
roll
or
back,
anyone needing
all that
special
stuff.
assistance,
That's basically your
put
oil
on your
pressure
mask
light
first.
there. The light goes
Please
out
remove
at
any
about
face
20 to
coverings before
25%
donning an
and
oxygen
2.
mask.
Bring the
We are here
lever
for your
up.
comfort and safety. Please report any unwelcome behavior to a flight
Again,
attendant.
this is Fast and
Thank you for
Furious
your
here.
attention.
Initialization,
Now sit
Nashville. I'm
back,
going to load up my
relax,
flight
and enjoy your
plan.
1-hour flight to
We're going to
Cincinnati.
select it, enter it.
Welcome
We're going to
aboard.
do a departure, which was off of 2 left. G-Dog. I like those waypoints. Verified off the chart. All right, we're going to do an arrival, and that's going to be Terge transition on the Sargo 4. I like that. We're going to execute that and approach. I'm going to select 1/8 center, the ILS, and I like that. We're going to select and enter. We'll go through this in the air. Again, I'm trying to make this as fast as possible. We're going to start number 3. Get this ground crew released. You can watch that sequence of starting events here. N2's rolling up, the light goes out, we'll put the fuel to it. Sort of hard to stick to a true Southwest SOP when there really is no SOP for 727. But if you think about it, it's essentially the same. There's oil pressure, light off. And when we see it come back down and stabilize, essentially our N2's match, we'll call that rollback. So not just yet. And of course, we're lucky to have a flight engineer back there who's manipulating all the air and doing all that stuff for us. And we'll call that rollback right there, stabilized, and we'll start number 1. And down, of course, is the ground position for that start valve. Oil pressure. These are all like little push buttons for the lights. Test, push to test sort of thing. Now again, our checklist at the top up here, if we go through this, we'll say this is complete. After start, start levers, beacon lights, anti-ice, and of course the flight engineer goes through all of his. But I will say, and you'll probably hear me say it many times, if you just use the little iPhone looking thing there and use those flows, they get it covered for you. You can pretty much just fly the airplane, which I really like. Okay, there's rollback on 1. Oops. That's the continuous ignition up there, by the way. And then we're going to go ahead and release We got 3 good motors, confirm engine start, and we are going to keep things rolling with the after start. And of course, that again is our flight engineer rolling through his procedures, our virtual FO doing his procedures. All the meanwhile, I'm going to be waiting for this ground crew to walk away, and then we're going to start moving some stuff.
All gens closed.
Now, granted, you should probably wait to do this until they walk away, because obviously he's doing hydraulic and power adjustments, but to keep things moving, that's how we're going to do it today.
Nav beacon
Unlocking gear.
Emergency exit lights are.
Standard taxi out of Nashville, going to runway 2 left. We'll be looking at a chart here, and what we're going to do is we're going to take the inner line there. That's your outbound line.
Tow truck disconnected.
Yankee 1 there is the inbound, Yankee 2 southbound. So we're going to take Yankee 2 over here to Tango 4. We'll cross 31 center Tango 4. Kilo Bravo off runway 2 left. Our departure procedure, the G-Dog. There's our friend over there. He's got the bag and the pin. Tug is driving away. We got 4 peeps. So we're clear. Now we can do the after start. Obviously, I'm getting ahead of things. 4,000 feet, King G-Dog Vapor on a 021. So let's set a few things up while we're doing that. And of course, this all could have been done at the gate as well. 021. We're going to be in nav. Actually, we'll leave it in GPS. That's to drive your CDI here off either your GPS or the nav radio when you're doing your ILS. So when we do the ILS, we'll have to switch back to nav. We got 021 set, 4,000 feet set. Our flight director is very rudimentary, I would say. So we'll put it in heading, and then our pitch mode, we're just going to crank it all the way up. And you can see the pitch bar there. All right, after start is complete. We're going to do our taxi. I am going to throw on my taxi light.
Flaps 15.
And they actually even set the flaps for me. How wonderful. You can see the flaps rolling to 15.
0, 1. Trim is set to 0 decimal 0, 6.
If we were to back this up, for instance, taxi pods, flaps, and runway. Let's see, we got 15 and a green light. Takeoff data, EPR, bugs are all set, and cross check. Stabilizer trim is set. I'm assuming he got that for me. Probe heat, flight controls, SCAT. I have no idea what that is. Yaw dampers, check, seatbelt, shoulder harness, and of course the flight engineer is doing all that. Looks like it's complete. We got a green light. So let's go ahead and get started taxiing. Now you can really go out on just number 2. I really just pretty much use number 2, the center engine on the tail there. That'll get us moving. We'll say clear left, clear right, and we're going to sidestep it over to that outbound lane. Real World Nashville has a ramp. They're going to give you those instructions. This is essentially what I had just covered. This aircraft is extremely manual, as you're going to see throughout this whole flight, particularly when we start the descent into Cincinnati. If you were given a descent via, you're going to have to do a lot of mental work and a lot of manipulating of knobs. It's not like the 7.3 where you can set a lower altitude and VNAV path and it just does all the work for you. Luckily, on this thing we have the auto throttles, and so that's really going to save our butts, because it's one less thing that we're going to have to do throughout the entire flight, is making sure that we are on speed. Autopilot is very interesting, to say the least. We'll show you how it works. So we'll take this first right-hand turn right here. We'll pick up Zulu. You can see all my injector traffic, whether it's realistic or not, I doubt. But that's alright, it looks cool. As I said, the key to success is just use that crew manager right there, the little phone. If you want to really get in depth and start flipping all those switches and doing everything yourself, that's fine. Go through the checklist, just watch some videos maybe. I think they've got on their Discord some really good videos on setup and how to actually run that flight engineer's panel and everything. I am certainly no expert on that. I'm going to let it do the work. I like to fly. I don't necessarily want to be a flight engineer. But if that's your cup of tea, certainly do it. I've tried it a few times and it is fun, but it's very tedious, obviously. And we'll say clear left, clear right, clear to cross. Normally I would light it up. I don't really want to because I just have to turn them right back off. We'll try to go through some of the buttons on the overhead panel, flight engineer's panel, talk about some of this stuff very briefly at cruise. Not sure how depth we'll get into it, but we'll just want to point out a few buttons and switches to you and where some of the gauges and sorts of things are located. Because if you're trying to run those checklists manually, as opposed to just using the crew manager, some of that stuff can be kind of hard to find. I've done a handful of flights in this thing now. I feel fairly competent in it, but I'm sure there's still plenty of mistakes to be made. Some things like fuel, you know, we never even verified. That's back there on the engineer's panel. I assure you it's fueled. So we're making our way down here. I am going to do what we would normally call a throttle burst there, full forward, full back on a couple. I'll do both the 1 and the 2 just to be sure, and we will do our before takeoff.
Check started. Auto brakes set to RTO. Ignition set to continuous. Essential power on.
Of course, we can point out those 2 items. Auto brake RTO, he just turned on the anti-skid right there. Continuous ignition. So as I said, you know, you use this guy, he's obviously very good at his job.
Transponder on.
Transponder on. I noticed that one. He doesn't really go TARA, so flip that all the way over. And then his lights. Some of the lights, like the runway turn off, he doesn't get those. The wing lights. So some of those things, the lights, you want to double check those for yourself. Set them how you like.
Pressure switch on flight mode.
Pressure switch on flight mode. The old NGs, sorry, the classics, the 7.3s, like the 300, 500, that had air and ground mode for the pressurization panel. They removed that in the NG. You can look back at the pressurization panel on the flight engineer's panel back there, and you'll be able to see that. We'll try to maybe point it out in flight once we get going. Alright, we're taking the runway 2 left's verified. We're clear for takeoff. We're all lit up. Final is clear. And clear right. I'm not on the network, so there's really nothing to worry about here. Alright, so our next item there will be the after takeoff. And of course that's mostly just cleanup items. We'll get out rolled out here on the center line. One thing I'll say about this aircraft too is the speed brakes have no arm feature for landing. So that's something you have to do manually upon landing. And then also I only have 2 throttle quadrant pieces here, so I kind of have to just manipulate the third throttle with the keyboard. Anyway, set takeoff thrust. I don't think it gives you much for airspeed callouts. At 80 knots, 100 knots rather. V1, rotate. Nice and easy. I don't have Rachel to do landing gear up for me, so we'll do it ourselves. Positive rate, landing gear up. Now here's kind of the key to this autopilot. You can't really do anything until you turn it on. So what I'm going to do is fly this thing manually on a 21 heading up to about, I don't know, 2,000–3,000 feet. What we will do is punch after takeoff and let him do that.
Ignition set to off. Landing lights off.
You can see my flight director. It's telling me to come right. I'm not really sure why. But anyway, we're going to ignore it because I need to be on a 21 heading. I guess I'm a little left. There it is. It's coming in. There's 3 for 4. Get the nose down. And because I suck at hand flying this thing, I'm going to get the autopilot on, heading select, altitude select, in turn knob and vertical speed. So now you can see the scoreboard here for the autopilot. We're in heading altitude select, keep it climbing, roll it up in vertical speed, get the flaps moving. So we're definitely accelerating nicely. Let's get the auto throttle on. I'm going to roll that orange bug up. That's my auto throttle. We'll keep it at about 200, 210. 3 for 4. Flaps coming up. Actually, there is 4. It's leveling, captured. That's why it's green. The flight director side is blank. Don't care about that anymore. It's pretty much useless at this point anyway. We'll accelerate to 250. After takeoff is complete, we'll put that away. Let's climb. I believe our filed altitude was 290. And with this guy, you got to always make sure you arm, and now we can climb. Auto throttle's rolling back. Yep, because it's at 250, but as we climb, it's going to push it back up. Now, let's get going here. Direct to G-Dog. Enter. And nav, you can see G-Dog. There's our course. We're in GPS. We can flip it over to nav. Obviously, heading goes away. Here it is rolling over. We're in good shape. Very cool aircraft, fun aircraft, but it does take a bit of work. The auto throttles are nice. Each roll back there gives you, I don't know, 500 or so feet per minute. So if you want to increase like 2,000 feet per minute, give it like 4 good rolls on the mouse wheel. Seems to work pretty good. Hold it at about 2,000 feet per minute. Power's pretty close to maxed out probably. I could probably squeak a little bit more out of it. What you could do too, I believe indicated airspeed hold will work for me here, and it should maintain 250 and pitch for 250. That should be our best climb rate right there. Our after takeoff was indeed complete. You can see we're a clean jet. Taxi light off. I don't really know why we turn off all these lights, but that's all right. And he went back to no, disregard. Auto brake disarm. If you don't like looking at that, just throw it on something up here. Get rid of that light. You may want it for landing anyway, so set it now and forget it. I don't really have a chime button. That's the ground control button. I suspect that's supposed to be a button there for the chime. You could just simply flip the signs off and on. 10,000 feet, climb check. I don't believe we have anything for that.
Ladies and gentlemen, use of all
So
portable
we'll simply
electronic devices is
do
now
sort of
permitted
an
in
old
airplane
school
mode,
Southwest
which
climb
does
check.
have a function
Pressurization,
turned
start switches,
off.
and
In a few moments, we will
APU.
be coming through to take your
Our
drink
igniter
order.
is
We
off.
will be serving
The
complimentary soft drinks, juice, and coffee. Beer, wine, and
pressurization
liquor are
is
available
essentially
for
these two
purchase or with
gauges
a
here.
valid drink coupon.
So you can see we're
There is a
pressurizing,
beverage menu
climbing
in
the
back
cabin,
pocket, or you may go to
and the
Southwest
APU
beverage
panel
menu
back
on
here,
the
it's
in-flight
off. It's
entertainment
been off
portal
for some time.
southwestwifi.com, where these options are displayed. Please be mindful of the flight attendant
Out of
serving you in the
10,000, we can
aisle and
certainly
remain seated while the
accelerate
fasten seatbelt sign is on. We have lavatories in the front
with the
and back
auto
of the
throttles.
aircraft. The sign on the ceiling indicates whether
It's
the
going to probably
lavatory
just
is
hold
occupied.
that speed
Please do not form a
because
line
I'm in
in a
indicated
forward
airspeed
lavatory.
hold until I go
Your safety will
vertical. Let's
always be
pitch
our
the nose
number one
over a little
priority.
bit to
So please
accelerate
don't
in
hesitate
vertical
to
speed.
let us know if you have other needs we can take care of.
I certainly want to keep climbing. I don't want to level off. So let's be careful how we do that. The downside of this GPS here, I mean, there's really no map. You want a moving map, use other GPS. But I do like this, and most people don't know how to use it or haven't used it, so I thought, let's just use this one today. We're directed G-Dog, 14.5 miles to go, 2.5 minutes, track at 353, where ground speed is 342. That's the wind readout coming from the GPS, essentially. Flight plan, hit that twice. Here's your departures, arrivals, approach. You want to enter a waypoint. What we can do is go to one of this pages here. I can select the one I want to put it in front of and just start typing, hit enter. Most of the time you're just going to hang out on the nav page. There we are. We're on speed. Let's go back to speed hold again. And it's going to pitch for that speed. Hopefully it just keeps the power up. That would be my intent. And of course it may pitch for that speed, and I can maybe keep the power up by just rolling the bug for the auto throttles up. They don't have anything for a climb checklist, as we kind of touched on already here. You know, really it was after takeoff, pilots do ignition, seatbelts, but of course my virtual crew did all this for me. Gear lever off, engineer did the hydraulic pumps, auto pack trip cut out, whatever that would be. And then we're right into a descent and approach checklist. I don't know specifically where they do this, at what altitude on the way down. But I don't think it can really go wrong. Of course, the landing checklist, gear flaps, ignition. So, anyway. We're out of 18, been out of 18. Let's set the standard here, 2992. If we can. On both the primary and standby altimeter. And of course, now these lights can now come off. A couple other things that we can do. You really want to go old school nav. You know, back in the day, obviously, there was no such thing as GPS. What we can do is throw in a couple VORs. Here's just a minor progress. New Hope VOR, maybe even Louisville. You know, it's pretty much directly in between, or pretty close to directly in between Nashville and Cincinnati, or close enough anyway. That's 114.8. And flip the switch. You got your ADFs back here for NDBs. Not many of those left in the United States. Fly around Canada a bit, you'll probably find some of those. Europe maybe. But you can see actually what's interesting about this is the DME on my side here reads from the DME2 or the FO side DME. So whatever I've got tuned on this side, the FO side, is the DME that I get. I'm not sure why Boeing made it that way, but that's the way it is. Radio altimeter, we can set that pretty standard, say 200 feet if we were doing an ILS. This is our barrel bug. Oopsie, wrong one. This is our barrel bug here. Essentially, if you were going to set, say, I believe it was 870 feet is what I'm going to be looking at for touchdown zone, you pretty much just have to set it right about there. And that's your barrel bug. What else can we talk about on the forward panel here? We talked briefly about the flight director. When I do the ILS, I'm going to put it over here into approach mode. You can see the scoreboard light up. Basically tells you, what the flight director is showing you and what the autopilot is actually doing. Green is, of course, engaged. The amber is armed. So think of it as that. We talk about nav, GPS, our altitude here, hundreds of increments, thousands of increments. 6-pack of instruments, of course, the comparator. If I was to do a test here, you can see it's not liking the pitch and the roll. There's a comparison issue, we'll say. That's what the comparator does for you. Miles, course on your compass, read directly off, of course, your course knob or your GPS, and then the miles too. You should know everything about the instruments already. Otherwise, marker beacons, inner, middle, outer markers, and sensitivity for those. That is pretty old school. There's not many marker beacons left anymore. Total air temperature, flight control positions, yaw dampers, engage, disengage. Obviously the engine gauges, EPR gauges, they use those for their power settings as opposed to N1s on these older jets. You might remember seeing when we set our power here that for takeoff that there was an EPR setting. 2.01 is what we would have set for takeoff thrust. We just set the EPR. Lights test, pretty self-explanatory with all the fire warning stuff here. You should be familiar with that already. Co-pilot side, brake gauges, brake accumulators, ground procs, obviously flaps, speed brake, again, manual deployment for landing. Something you have to remember to pull yourself when you touch down. Comms, navs, ADFs. There's a horn cutout for the the landing gear warning horn if you were at idle, we'll say. These modes, they got Mach labeled as in-op, indicator speed, vertical speed, and pitch. Of course, we showed you the vertical speed with the wheel. Turn knob, so if you're in turn knob, you just want to hold a steady bank, you can use that. Heading select, pretty self-explanatory. Altitude select, make sure you smash that every time you've got a new altitude. You want to make sure that it captures and levels, and it's capturing and leveling now because it's green. Make sure we don't overspeed. You can see the fast and slow there on the ADI, right? So if you're trying to fly angle of attack, well, not really angle of attack, but the on speed indicator there, okay? What else can we show you? We got a few minutes. Let's jump to the overhead flight hydraulics, the flight control panel, anti-skid, stall warning, flight recorder tests, VHF compass transfer switches. Can't really tell what they're set to. Both on 1. Typically you just leave that in normal, but for whatever reason that's what they got. Anyway, I don't know. Normal should be, FO's side reads FO's information from the computers and etc. Cargo warning, fire, obviously, right? Not sure how well this stuff works or how well it's implemented. Pretty well, I would assume. Engine start, we went through all that with the continuous ignition. Alternate flap extension, which is over here on the 7.3. Cockpit voice recorder, seatbelt signs, PA, transponder, all your lights, window heat, anti-ice. That's just telling you that there's, I guess, duct pressure, because the flight engineer is going to control the actual valves. What else we got here? Actually, I guess this is your engine anti-ice. Haven't played with this too much. Haven't really needed it in the sim. Again, not a 727 pilot, so. Probe heat. And then let's take a peek. Flight engineer's panel real quick. If you were to do all this stuff manually, you got all your electrical. You've got to sync and phase your generators before you put them online. It's a fairly interesting process. Cargo smoke. Here's your packs, engine bleeds packs, pressurization. There's that air to ground switch right there for the pressurization panel. What do we got? Fuel pumps, fuel gauges, quantity. I don't know. He's kind of going crazy back here. I don't know what's going on. Fuel heat, hydraulics, oil quantity, oil temperature, oil pressure for each engine, the APU panel. That's about it. That's any more detail than that. We're just killing time, I guess.
And we'll turn off the seatbelt sign when it is safe to do so. We will check back in during descent.
Let's do it.
Please sit back and enjoy the flight.
So, it's a pretty quick flight. We're 61 miles and closing from Louisville. Currently, Cincinnati on the Star. On the Sargo, we're looking at vapor to Jericho. Here's Jericho. We have to cross Jericho 23,000 feet. So if we're given a descend via, in fact, we can just go direct to Jericho. How about that? Try to cut some of this flight down. Let's go direct, Jericho, enter, and you can see direct to Jericho, 28 miles, 3.6 minutes, 3.5 minutes roughly on a course of 008. You can see that matches there, and the course matches. Ground speed of 460 knots. We're hauling tail. We're doing pretty good here. And so basically we got 26 miles to get down to Jericho at 23,000 feet. The way I look at this, if you're trying to do the mental math, I got to lose 6,000 feet. 6 times 3 for a 3-degree angle is about 18 miles. Add some fudge factor, call it 20 to 25. It's time to start down. So let's do it. We're going to go vertical speed mode, roll it down a little bit. We'll see what we get. Auto throttle is going to help us out immensely here. Keep it coming down. At 2,000 feet per minute, that's 3 minutes. I got just under 3, so obviously I need to be doing a little bit more than 2,000 feet per minute. More mental math for you. Keep it coming down. Now I could probably do indicated airspeed mode, bring the throttles to idle, and watch it really come out of the sky. But I just think the vertical speed works pretty good. Just use that. But we'll make it. After that, we're looking at here between 21 and 22, there between 15 and 19, Sargo at about 14, bang, and then we're doing 1.8 left, so Yebel at about 13, Ura at about 12, Azons 210 at or above 8, Fidec, wherever you say that, Lewin 210 at 6, landing south. So that's what we'll be looking at if you wanted to follow along. Here's where I'm really going to be at for most of the rest of this flight here. It's just watching the FMC and making sure that I am abiding by these crossing restrictions to the best of my ability. I'm coming almost from directly south to Jericho, and then we'll be hanging a hard right turn to here. So we're down in here somewhere. That's the other part about an aircraft like this, without moving maps and all that stuff. Just trying to keep yourself situationally aware as to like where you are. Can be one of the harder things to do too.
From the flight deck,
and that's how people get lost.
Descent. We expect to be on the ground in about 20 minutes or so. Thank you for flying Southwest Airlines.
course, as I said, LC5, I will be getting credit for this flight. I think it shows up as a max 8. It's just the way it's programmed. But regardless. 24 for 23. We got 7 miles to get there. We're in good shape. Let's start pulling out of this nosedive. In fact, it just went engage, right? So it's capturing. So in reality, I need to not touch anything and let it just do its thing. We can keep the speed up. I don't want to mess with it too much. Here you can see we're starting our turn there. It's leading its turn from Drico to here. With any luck, it'll cycle. Usually it shows you a little bit better information than that. There it goes. Drico to here. It's making its turn. So Drico to here is 24 miles on a course of 081. So we'll watch that flip as we pass over top of Drico. And now we're going from Drico to here. There it flipped. We're on a nice intercept. Can sync up my heading bug, why not? Very nice. I will suggest keep an eye on this. These transitions, I've noticed. I had a flight plan in here one time, and it took me, some waypoint took me God knows where, and or was going to. So keep an eye on it. If you don't like what it's doing, just give yourself a new direct to. Alright. So our next descent crossing is here between 22 and 21. So I have a feeling we need to get down to 21. We got 17 miles. That's fine. Let's just get it done because I have a few other things that I need to do. Specifically, I don't think it loaded all the fixes in this star. So after Sargo, we got Vang. And then it jumps straight to my approach for some reason. It doesn't really... It didn't load the transition properly. So I'm going to have to build some of these here. We're going to go flight plan. We're going to go after Vange. We're going to go to... Taking a look at my chart here. I need to put in a few fixes. So bear with me here while we do this. There's 22 for 21. Always make sure that that selector is armed or you'll go blowing right through it. And then after Yebel, and this is kind of what I'm talking about. I don't really know why it didn't load the full transition here for me, but we'll just we'll make it happen. This is obviously how you input waypoints. This one's important because it's a nice turn onto the downwind. And then we'll just do the last one. I don't really need the one in the middle. Oop, cycled. After FIDEC, we are going to go to Lewin. And that should do it. So now currently we are going from here to there. And there is 15 to 19. So we're going to go the bottom altitude. And I've got 3 minutes to do it. I only need to be out of 19 though, so it's not as bad as it looks. But we'll get on down. Try to keep these descents from being too excruciating. If you actually had people back there, pressurization on an old jet like this can only do so well. So 2,000 to 3,000 feet per minute at the most, I would say. And I need to be somewhere between 15 and 19 by there in 20 miles or roughly 2.5 minutes. And I'm almost out of 19, so I got this made. This is easy. Clearly this aircraft is a lot more work than a 7.3 NG or a Max, but it's fun to fly. It's different. Louisville, 28 miles away. Not dry flying over it, obviously, so. Okay, we're out of 18,000 feet. Let's get the weather and get that plugged in. Cincinnati showing 260, 12 gust 18, clear skies, altimeter 3010. And of course, this is normally where we would, you know, ding the flight attendants and do our descent and approach checklists. Should have already done the descent. Do our approach checklist as well now. So, you know what? We will just go ahead and run the approach here now.
Nav beacon and logo light set.
Okay.
Brake pressure check. Altimeter is set to 102.
Brake pressure check. Altimeter set.
Boost pumps all on.
He's got
Ladies and
15.
gentlemen,
I'm showing
as we make
10.
our final descent into Cincinnati, please stow laptop computers and similarly sized electronic devices. Small portable electronic devices may continue to be used in airplane mode, but must be
Not a great
secured
time to
for
adjust the
remainder
altimeter
of
leveling
flight.
at 15 there.
Please ensure all carry-on items.
Okay,
are completely seated
tenants
in front
notified.
or
Descent
in an
checklist is
overhead
complete.
bin,
Approach checklist is
leaving the area
complete.
around your feet clear. Please raise your seat back and tray table to the full upright.
So we got the
and locked
weather. We
position and
did our
fasten your
A.
seatbelt.
We're going to build it.
will
We already
come by
did
one
that.
last
That's
time
our
to pick up
approach.
cups,
That's
cans,
built in the
newspapers,
FMC.
and any other trash.
And
Thank
of course, need to keep an eye on this descent profile. Sargo at or above 14, but that's going to be after. Oops, so we're approaching Sargo. So now we can go down to 14. Just trying to stay on the lower side of things so I don't end up getting high. 15 for 14. And so our approach is built. We're going to stick with 1.8 center, even with those winds. 111.55. I'm just going to go ahead and switch that over so I don't forget. I really don't need that VOR anyway. And the points on the approach after Nilri is Hypeb, Felub, Jibber, Zevi, Wutov, and then the runway. That all matches my chart here. Touchdown zone at 875. I believe we already set that. The course we'll have to get later. Lighting, latest touchdown points, 3,000 feet. Left turn off. Brakes. We'll go medium, and we'll use flaps 40, which is max in this aircraft. Our landing data comes from this, of course. Temps, EPers, speeds. But I don't want to, I got to be careful with that, though, because you can see what it does to my auto throttle bug as well. So be careful about that. So there's our speeds, ref 3641 for approach. Go around EPer and N1. Minimum landing distance available 5319. We got tons of runway there, 1.8 center. So I think we're in good shape with that. We'll call that briefed. We did our checklist and we are approaching. To Bang. So Sargo at about 14, we got that. Bang. There's nothing Yebble below 13, Europe below 12, Azons at 8. That's the next one that we care about. Let's do that. We'll leave that for now. A little more information for you there on the nav pages. So again, we're southwest flying northeast, 060 roughly. We are 6 from Vang. Then it'll be 5 to Yebble, 3 to Ura, 13 to Azons. So what does that give us? About 25 miles to get down to 8,000 feet. I think we probably need to start down. Maybe not right away there, but last thing you want to do is end up getting high and fast. Don't put yourself in that position, certainly. We're in vertical speed. Airplane's not going to pitch for speed. It's going to pitch for the vertical speed. Auto throttle is going to come back when we do that. And then if we need to adjust the vertical speed to make sure that we don't exceed 250 below 10, we will. Coming up on 10, we'll just give it a little speed brake, help it out, get the speed down, maintain the descent rate. Azons at or above 8. Yeah, we'll be above 8. And then Lewin at 6, a little fast. Speed's creeping. We'll just pitch up a little. We got 8 made, leveling. And there's also, I sort of overlooked, a speed restriction of 210 at Azons at or above 8, but we got 9 miles to get to Azons. Hold the speed for a little bit here. I will, however, set 6. That's going to be my next altitude for Lewin. Coming up on the Ohio River there. Cincinnati should be... see it yet. Should be almost directly off the nose. Hard to see, but that should be the city of. And it might actually be the airport right there. Yeah, that's the airport right there. So we're going to make a left-hand turn. We'll be on the downwind. You can see the lead-in lights there for runway 9. Coming up on Azons, we need to be at 210. There's another point here, flaps. So V speeds, 0 maneuvering speed, 199, flaps 2, 189, flaps 5, 159. So we're good with no flaps down to 199. Keep her at 210, we're in good shape. Passing Azons, FIDEC, and then after that will be Lewin, and Lewin at 6. So should be making the left-hand turn onto the downwind. And here we go, starting that left-hand turn. Going to Lewin, and we need to be at 6, so let's get down. 6 at Lewin, speed 210. And I'm also going to sync up my heading bug at this point, because after Lewin, the game sim wants to go direct to that fix on the approach. I need to keep flying a heading, so I'm going to switch over to heading at some point. We need to get down 6.5 miles to make it. We'll be there. Oh yeah, easy. 7 for 6. Now our next is going to be landing, and according to the checklist, that's going to be gear, flaps, ignition. So clearly I'm going to do that on final after I'm configured. Alright, it says a 006 track after Lewin. So I'm going to sync this up to my current heading to maintain a 006 track. We'll go heading. Stay there. And then I'm looking for the approach. So we're going to spin this course knob. Actually, I need to go nav. Course is going to be for the approach 18 center 1155 186. Hard to read, but I think it's there. 186. And then I guess what I'm going to look at here next is going to be Jibber is 15 out, Zevi is a 12 out. We'll go Zevi at 4. So let's set 4. Perhaps we get descent to 4 at this point. And then how do I know when I'm there? Let's do this. We're in heading mode. We're going to go direct to Zevi. And currently Zevi is a 070 track. So it's still right over there. We're going to keep flying this way a little bit longer. When that is beyond a 90, that's when we'll turn. But that's not going to update. I'm going to have to keep doing direct twos to see. There's a 93, so we don't have to go much further. Just make sure I got everything set up. 1155, course is set in nav mode. We can do the approach mode on the flight director. There's my glide slope, so you can see I'm actually below it, getting lower, so that's probably a good indication that I can start my turn. Because obviously I want to intercept from below. Scoreboard for the flight director does not show active, of course. It's not been captured. I'm in altitude and heading. Below is good. Let's start slowing up just a little. How about 170, and we'll go flaps 5. There's the airport out there. Watch that localizer, make sure we don't overshoot that. Just double checking here, flaps 5, 159, which is essentially bugged. SVA shows a 209, that's about 30 degrees. Actually, I don't think I read that right. 154. So that's actually going to be about a nice 30-degree intercept, so we'll do it. Let's pick up about a 160. Still below the glide slope, it's coming in. Alright, now I am in heading mode. Oh, let's do it. Glide slope and localizer mode, the approach mode and auto mode. You can see the Vorloc's captured. It's going to shoot through a little bit. I did that a little late, but it'll pick it up. It's rolling back out. Flight director says go left. It's going left. Glide slope's coming in. Glide slope capture. We are established. And there's 1/8 center. SVA is 11 miles out. We're inside of SVA. We're going to Wutvu. We're 4 from Wutvu. That's 10-mile final. Let's start doing stuff. Landing her down. Flaps 15. My short memory app is 141. Let's slow to 141. And we're going to throw it all out. Flaps 40. Landing.
Landing checks. Flaps 30.
Nope.
Ignition
Oh, that's
set
right.
continues.
30. My bad.
Anti-skid is on.
He's there to back me up. That's good.
Landing checks complete.
Alright, checks complete. Little crosswind here. It's probably an ugly landing. Again, manual speed brakes, thrust reversers. I'm going to have to hit the keyboard, so that might be a little ugly because I only have 2 throttle things on my control. Starting to get a little pitchy. We're going to go ahead and take over. Auto throttle, autopilot are off. Just follow the flight director and fly the needles. visual too, obviously. Get some power in. Again, I don't really have a thing for the third throttle on my hand here, so it is what it is. Number 3 is going to be set to what it's set at. We're just basically using 1 and 2 here.
$500, $400, $300,
on the Pappy now. 1,000 footers.
100,
Lights low.
50, 40, 30, 20, 10.
Oh yeah. Okay, sit down. What's it doing? I got the speed brakes out even. I don't know what that was about. Well, not the greatest. Hopefully you get the idea. Trying to manipulate the throttles and the thrust first keyboard at the same time. It didn't work too well.
Welcome to Cincinnati. Please remain seated with your seatbelt fastened, seat back and tray table in their full upright and locked
Alright,
position,
we'll still the
and
speed
all
brakes
carry-on
flaps
items
up.
completely under the seat in front of you. When the captain turns off the fasten seatbelt sign,
And what
please
we're
be
gonna
careful when
do
opening the overhead bin. Items may have shifted during
is
flight
get some
and
help
could fall
from
out.
our
You may
virtual
now use
crew
the cellular
here
function
after
of your small
landing.
portable electronic
And we're going
devices,
to take it straight
so
ahead of
please
the
remain
gate.
seated and leave your carry-on stowed. Please
Somewhere
be
over
advised
here.
the aircraft doors will be open during ground servicing. For your safety, please ensure that you and any children you are supervising remain clear of the front and back doors. If you are connecting here to another Southwest flight, please check the monitors in the terminal for your flight and gate number. We certainly have enjoyed sharing part of our day with you. We know you have a choice when you fly, and we thank you for choosing Southwest Airlines.
Ugly landing. I don't know why it started to roll like that. I pulled the speed brakes out. It should have sat down, but it didn't really apparently. And I have no idea where I'm going here at the moment. I'm just going to drive over here. Actually, you know what? Park next to that RJ, I guess. Scenery is not great here in Cincinnati. There's a line. I don't know if it leads anywhere. That's that takeoff warning horn, because obviously I don't have flaps set. No jetway, but that's alright. I don't really care. We'll make it happen. Now, seeing as this after landing is still working, I'm definitely not going to shut the engines off. I'm assuming it's maybe partly to do with the APU coming online.
Engine 2 bleed open. APU bleed open.
There we go. Now he's got it.
APU gen close. Galley power off. After landing, checks complete.
All right, checks complete. Love cars is good. All right, that's the 727. Very manual aircraft, fun to fly, a lot of work. Use this crew manager. If you're looking for a little variety in your sim flying, I mean, this might be the way to go. You got an opportunity to fly an aircraft that's not just a 737, and you know, check out that website. See if the aircraft is for you. I think it's only $20 or $30. Anyway, hopefully that helps and is at least mildly entertaining.